Who
What?
are we to give out bad ratings? Who is anyone to give out bad ratings?
I'll do it.
Ever since Siskel and Ebert, who? There has been no one, by the way. Siskel and Ebert were I mean, they were like late 80s, early to mid 90s. There was no two opinions greater than Siskel and Ebert. The cartoon series, The Critic, which I believe may have been also another WB. I love that series. You can watch them on YouTube.
Yeah.
100%. I think there was only two seasons, but honestly, like growing up, it felt like there were like four or five. But that was The Critic was a parody of Hollywood at the modern Hollywood at the time and
Right,
different
right.
movies and everything. Funniest thing in the world. And Siskel and Ebert were absolutely mentioned all the times because obviously the critic, he was a movie critic, so he was, like riffing on Siskel and Ebert. But n- now that we look back, what qualified Siskel and Ebert to be the critics that they were? What gave them such, like accreditation that they could have made or broken your movie based on their ratings? And if they were mixed reviews, that was even better sometimes because then you went to theaters because you were like, let me see what the controversy is about.
Right.
Like they were tent poles in terms. Speaking of tent poles, they were tent poles in terms of what made a movie. And if they were both thumbs down, whoo, that could have been the death sentence of yours. But who is it
No, I
now?
think
What
what
does it
made them
mean
better,
for
what they
critics?
did, what gave them the credibility, which made people believe them. It was not because they weren't much different than any other like food critic or
No, no difference at
a
all.
newspaper. It's just that they were plucked from the obscurity and their last names, immortalized for
Siskel and
being
Ebert. You could say
being
Siskel and Ebert.
being
100. You may not even know who they were, and you know Siskel and Ebert.
right. They were immortalized for that because I feel like they had personalities that were they were critical, they
Mm-hmm.
were succinct, but it was just also they were humble in their movie.
Even-handed.
They weren't egotistical even when they had a
Mm-hmm.
bad review. Like I had to YouTube some of their episodes of their show, but even when they had a bad review about something, it wasn't just, oh well, this is shit. Like it was a well reasoned.
I
And
would have loved that review, by the way.
most
Siskel's like, man, this movie's just shit, man.
they just never said that. There wasn't
Yeah, no.
egotistical at all. It was just a really well thought out, um, nuanced reasoning as to why
Mm-hmm.
this movie didn't work in their opinion or
Yeah.
why it did. And I feel like people needed that type of lividity to be like, oh, okay, well, maybe they do know what they're talking about. It was like being recommended a movie by a friend
Yeah.
at a certain point.
But a friend that studied film and like, a friend that knows what they're talking about.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
because they were so good at what they were able to produce, and the fact that their production of their show was just so simple, it was just like
Simple.
they got
Them in a theater, then they would just turn to camera sometimes, and like was it. Like,
they got the topic, they got the title of just being experts in their
yeah.
field. Like they were the original thought leaders, but they were the thought leaders of film and what made a movie good. And that was just
Hmm.
because of their personalities, their characters, and how they came across on character. It wasn't because they were anything special or anything different.
No.
But then you have things like Rotten Tomatoes, where it's just, people who may be misinformed or people who may not be as critical, and not critical in a bad sense but critical in a good sense of what they're watching, and
Hmm.
just may want to cause controversy or get clicks or move for likes or get picked up by the blogs on Rotten Tomatoes saying, well, this is good or this is crap, and you need to watch this, and with no substance behind it. And
Yeah.
people go to, we don't have, Cisco and Ebert are both gone. God bless their souls.
Hmm.
We have very
Rough
few
endings for both
this
of them. Yeah.
other than our people in our lives that we can go to be like, okay, should I watch this? So like, or make the decision by watching the trailer and so on. So if you want to see a review or you want to see what other people are thinking about a film, unless you have your TikTokers that you follow, and your TikTokers are really only reviewing things that are on streaming, no one's actually doing theatrical releases, you have to
Yeah.
go to
Right.
Rotten Tomatoes. And you go to Rotten Tomatoes and it's just like, how can I trust the veracity of what these people are saying? Like, were they paid off? Was there
Yeah. What was their
even
influence? What was their
did they,
reasoning behind it?
right? Do they even know? Well, do they did they even watch the film, right? Or are they
Or
even
did
out?
they watch it, but did they like see deeper, like other than the surface level, or are they like rated like?
Right? What are
I'm
their
like, I'm sorry.
what qualifies them to type post? What is
And see that's the part that I don't like is because it's the internet, as we all know, used to be the source of all information, but it's just turned into a cesspool. But the thing I don't like about it is it's the hyperbole. It's a 1 star, it's a 5 star.
right?
It's either like the worst thing you've ever watched, or it is just better than Schindler's List. And like in the middle, you don't get the only middle you get maybe is 2.5 is I didn't like it, I didn't hate it, 2.5. And what Siskel and Ebert would do is they would say, I'm going to give it a 4, but that's because I liked this part, but it just subtracted from this one part. They had reasoning and substance behind a vote. For example, I mean, last night I watched Wonder Woman 1984. I never got around to watching it. Finally, it was on TV. Last night. I was like, hell yeah, let's watch 1984 Wonder Woman. On a whole, not a great movie. It was, despite everyone's best effort, there were 3 great performances in that movie, and it was Pedro Pascal, it was Kristen Wiig, it was Chris Pine, and the 3 of them gave 3 great performances despite being in a mediocre Wonder Woman movie. And for that reason, I would I would give it a certain rating, whatever. But it'd be like with reason. Like I would give this one, but I have justifiable reason of things you will like about it, things you will not like about it, and which is any movie. That's every movie you're ever going to watch is things you're going to like about it, things you're going to disagree about it, and what a good critic can do is tell that and tell it why it's that. Of like, okay, this could have been better, but on the whole, you will enjoy it. Or like go watching it through this lens, you will enjoy it through this, whatever. And that's what a good critic does. But sometimes when you get your Rotten Tomatoes, like I said, you get 1 star, hated it, 5 star, best thing ever. Like and there's no real substance in between. There's no reasoning of like there's no where's the pluses and minuses? Where's the pros and cons of this movie? And then we don't have that anymore. Like even Gene Shalit, who is a wannabe Siskel and Ebert, they were around the same time. Like that's what the old film critics of yore would do is give you reasonings like, oh, this was great because of this was not so great because of that, and so then you get the average thing of that, and that's what a critic does. But do we have that anymore? Like who gets to be that anymore? Like do you give like the wrong review of a good movie and then there goes your credibility and nobody believes you anymore?
Well, that's exactly it. Like, what is their reason
Yeah.
behind it? And like, how can we trust them? What they're saying is based on any type of, oh, we love movies.
Mm-hmm.
Do we? Do we really?
Yeah.
Like, why are you saying what
Do you
you're
want to
saying?
marry him?
Like
Yeah.
with Siskel and Ebert, you knew that they were there to review movies, give their honest, if not somewhat, give their somewhat, but if not honest opinions on it. But
Mm-hmm.
they weren't, or at least they didn't come across like the type that they were being influenced by the forces that wanted good reviews for certain productions and wanted bad
Yeah.
reviews for other ones. It just didn't come across political in that way. But with Rotten Tomatoes, it's just like, number one, can I trust what you're saying? Number two, do you have any type of qualifications to be saying what you're saying about these films? And number three, if since this is all kind of so anonymous and we've all become keyboard warriors in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
um, why are you
It,
doing this? Why are you saying what you're saying? Like,
yeah. What weight does your opinion carry versus literally anybody else's?
right. And I mean, we depend on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, a lot of us do. A lot of us moviegoers want to see what other people are saying about a flick before we decide that we're going to go see it. Me, my personal process is I hear about a film, I
Mm-hmm.
watch the trailer, and then, you know what, if I'm still a little bit unsure about it, I'll go check the reviews.
Yeah.
And the place where you go check the reviews is basically what Siskel and Ebert was to people when they were on TV, which is the source to get a review about films. And if
They
Rotten
had
Tomatoes,
weight. Their opinion
yes,
had weight.
if
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes can't keep it genuine,
Yeah.
then I mean, really, what are we doing out here?
Then they've just become another Yelp, another Google reviews, where it's like, okay, another Amazon reviews, right? All right, I just have to go with the general consensus, knowing that there's going to be a lot of bots, or there's going to be, like I said, 1 star, 5 star, which you could drop off either one of those. Like, give me
Right.
what were the middle ones? Like, the middle people with middle opinions, like 2 to 4 star, they had reasons for those ratings, right? Like, that's, sometimes where I could, where I'm like, all right, why did you give it 4? Why did you give it 2?
We have to conduct our own little mini investigations to be like, okay, what's
Yeah.
the actual truth about this thing in order to make a decision? And it's just like, I mean, if if you're the source, like verify your sources. At this point, Rotten Tomatoes, the site, you're a journalist. The site itself is journalism, and you need to verify your sources. And if your sources
Like,
are shit, then you have no right to be doing what you're doing, because there might have been movies out there where people would have gone and saw, but because it got a bad Rotten Tomatoes score and they said it wasn't fresh, you know, they didn't go see it.
and then that's when you get, 3, 4 years later, the cult following bump that you can get sometimes with a movie of like, oh, hey, why was this panned at the time? This is actually a really good one. It's because the reviews were mixed enough, or weren't genuine enough, that people on the consensus didn't view it worth going to watch.
And then
And then it gets dumped and dropped and forgotten.
you become a Reddit thread, and people have to play
Exactly.
years later, and you're 100 levels deep, and you're like,
And that's the thing of like, because back in the day you would go with word of mouth of like, oh, I went to the theater, I went and saw this, totally worth watching, da da da, go to see
right.
it. Siskel and Ebert says go see that. There was reason for it. Now, if you don't see a movie, you may never even know it ever existed to begin with, nor care, because there's enough other movies and shows to go out there and watch that it gets buried. And so that's why a review is that much more important nowadays, because if you put out something really good and valid and it gets mixed reviews, 1 star, 5 star, there's not enough talk or buzz about it, it can just be dumped and forgotten. And you don't get that chance until years later, you're in a package sold to a streaming site, and then people get to rediscover it and say like, oh, wait a minute, I finally saw this movie that came out 4 years ago. It's actually really good, and then you get the backup cult following. But by then, like, the director didn't get a second chance because it didn't, like, their original, that movie didn't get, the original sales that they were looking for, or the actors in that film didn't get their credit they deserve because reviews were mixed, and then they got shuffled on to the next project, and so that's why sometimes, like, actors and directors and writers need, like, good genuine critics or reviews to give them the quality, like, grade that they're asking for, that they need to see whether was this a flop, is this actually good, is this in the middle for different reasons, like,
Right.
that's why you need a weighted critic system.
And I think that's part of the reason why directors like Fede Alvarez are very grateful for people like Ridley Scott, because it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know what his previous movies did, but were the critics, were the sources for what movie reviews, were they giving him a good review? I mean, or did he have to
Mm-hmm.
rely on his industry contacts and people who he knew to get his next job? And here
Yeah.
we have, which is probably one of the biggest things he's done to date in his career. And like you said, it's not just people watching these movies that depend on these reviews, or like at least accuracy in these critics and what they're watching and why they've decided to rate a movie what they did. But it's the people behind the scenes, the people who actually made the
Yeah.
movies, they depend on these reviews probably more than that, because word of mouth, it's much stronger marketing than a trailer in certain cases. And if you've got people who haven't seen your movie, who are on the fence of seeing your movie, reading reviews off the top of people panning your movie, and then they don't go see it, I mean, that's like manslaughter, you know what I mean? Like,
It's the same thing. It's the same thing as murder.
like, why are you saying that?
No, but it's also to the point of a movie's a movie until it has that indie critics thing. You know, was I call them like the leaf, the leaf parentheses that you'll see. Was it like the two, like the leaf, like the branch with leaves, and it has like won this indie film award, or like won this film festival award. If it has a number of those like like those like things, whatever, like, oh, it won awards at film festivals. I'll totally go check it out. Yeah, exactly. It has those leaves in parentheses, those parentheses leaves. You know, this is like in Cannes Film Festival or like Jake's Film Festival, like this horror film festival. If you have enough of those on there, it's like that's the critic review of like, okay, film festivals liked it. I'm gonna go check it out.
Right.
Like it was Liam Neeson's movie we were just talking about. What was the one in the Land of Saints and Sinners? I was like, okay, it was, as in the trailer, it had one of those parentheses that I talk about, those leaf parentheses. It says like for the Ireland Film Festival. I'm like, oh, the Ireland Film Festival like approved this. Like, okay, so like it was justified by not just the studio. It's like somebody else said it was a good film. Like it wanted, that's the new critic. The critic logos that you look for is have they won awards in these small film festivals.
You know, the funny thing about the Land of Saints and Sinners is that you were right. It was actually released in September.
Oh, yeah?
It was released in September, but the news is dropping on it now.
Because it may have been like small release. I mean, probably definitely in Ireland. But then now it's like, hey, enough, attention's garnered from different people where like we can now do a more worldwide distribution.
Yeah. So that just goes to show you, I mean, if you're going to talk about something, just don't talk.
Which again, producers, can we have like a couple like at the bottom of just like those parentheses like leaves of just made them up, just make it up, right? Just say critic box awards have given this, but it's like the golden parentheses. Like if you have like 3 or 4 of those in your trailer, ooh, you're film festival gold. I'm gonna go check you out.
Yeah, but I'm just basically saying, like, if you're gonna leave a review, if you're gonna talk about a movie, if you're gonna do a blog piece or an article on a movie, this is not the time to believe your bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people, you don't know who you're going to reach. You don't know who the audience is. Like, at least give it I don't want to say be fair and give it a chance. I'm not trying to like spill a naivete like that. I mean, but at least do your due diligence and come correct. And at the very least,
yeah,
your name
like
is
if you're gonna put a review on something, it's always like Ron Swanson in Parks and Rec says, like, if I'm gonna write a letter of complaint, I'm gonna put my name on it because I stand by my word on it. And if you're gonna give a review of a movie, put your notes down. Put put your homework down. Put what was your work? Like what was your reasoning?
Or if you're getting paid for it,
if you're getting paid for it, just say, hey, I got paid to say it, so here's some reasons to go watch this movie.
TikTok creators have to disclose that it's a paid partnership all the time. Like, so
Yeah. Which again, studios, we will take money for positive reviews. I just want that to be known. We will take money for positive reviews.
Sending an email with my rate.
Yeah, so go ahead. Exactly. Yeah. I'm going to start low to just get credit, and then I'll move up from there.
Right.
But but then I'll tell you, I was like, hey, Sony Pictures just paid me a bunch of money to say go watch this movie. But you know what? I mean, I'm also
a Sony fan for life, buddy.
But and that's also why people, my friends, kind of don't like me, like to hear my reviews on things, because I think any movie is watchable for different reasons. Right. If the movie is shit, I'm going to tell you why you should go watch this shit movie, because I'm like, here, go laugh at this acting, go laugh at this scene. You're not going to believe they pulled this off. Every movie has a reason to watch it, but it doesn't mean it's good and watchable. But again, it's so that's why I always put my positive spin on different film reviews. Like I said, Wonder Woman 1984. Go watch your Pedro Pascal. Go watch your Kristen Wiig. Go watch your Chris Pine. Those are 3 performances that are worth watching, and then you're gonna laugh the rest of the way because it's like, what happened with that storyline?